Sometimes it becomes necessary for business reasons or for technical reasons to access multiple databases from a Spring Boot application. For instance, I worked on an application which was built on technology stack, Angular, Spring Boot, and Oracle database. After a few years, the business demanded to pull data from MySQL database maintained by another application. As a developer, we frequently encounter such challenges. Hi, my name is Pratap, and in today's video we will discuss how to connect Spring Boot to MongoDB and MySQL. We will build an application that is going to have CRUD capability. The idea is to store student information in MySQL database and store all the courses associated with a student in the MongoDB database. To demonstrate this, we will start with creation of a Spring Boot application. As usual, we will create our project using the most popular option, Spring Initializer. Let's name the group as com.php, artifact as Spring Boot MongoDB MySQL, name as CRUD dot demo, and description as connect Spring Boot with MongoDB MySQL. We will leave the package as jar. We will use Java 11. We will use Maven as build tool and Spring Boot version 2.3.5. We will add starter web as dependency. Then Spring Data JPA. We will add MySQL, MongoDB, and DevTools. Now that all the dependencies are added, let's generate the project. Let me import the project into IntelliJ. The project is imported. We will start with application.properties file. I'm adding the properties that are necessary for Spring Boot to auto configure the database connection bins. The first property tells Spring Boot to use the mentioned database. MongoDB is running locally on my system and listening at port 27017, and hence we have mentioned that information in the next two properties. Uh, and all other properties are mentioned for uh, MySQL. We will create a controller package. We will annotate the class as REST controller, and the name of the class is student controller. Yeah, I just missed to add REST controller, so I just corrected it. We will add a public method, say info with a string return type. And we will return, let's say the application is up. This string we will return. And we will map it to the URL info with the help of request mapping annotation. And the method will be get method. Let's run the application. Yeah, the application is started. Let's curl into slash info endpoint now. and the application is up is the response. This step is not necessary, but I perform this step just to make sure that our bare bone application is working fine. Now we will go ahead and create the following packages. First, we will start with the entity package. Next, we will create document, then service package. We will create another model package, and the last one will be repository. We will go ahead and create a student class in the entity package. Let's do that. We will name it as student, and we will annotate it as with @entity. This is going to be a very simple class with only three properties, and those are ID, private int ID, private string first name, private string last name, and private string email. We will annotate int ID with @ID, and this is going to be auto-generated by Hibernate. So we will add another annotation @generated value, and the strategy will be generation type dot auto. Let's go ahead and create a no-var constructor, getters and setters, and a toString method with all the fields. That's it. Let's go ahead and create another class named course in the document package. We will create the class and name it as course. We will annotate it with @document, and within that we will mention the name of the collection, and name of the collection will be course. This is the requirement for interacting with MongoDB. We will add only a handful of properties in this class as well. So we will add a private string ID and name. I forgot the data type. So private string name, private string description, and private string email. And let's annotate it with @ID, and this is also going to be maintained by JPA. So we will say that @generated value, and strategy will be auto. We will create a no-arg constructor and getters and setters. We will add a toString method with all the fields. Now let's create another model class. Let's name it as student model within the model package. This class is a custom class which will be used to marshal the response returned from the JPA. This will contain all the fields except the ID field of student entity. So this class will not be annotated with any annotation. We will start with the property private string first name, private string last name, private string email, and a list of courses. We will create a no arg constructor, and we will create getters and setters for all the fields. Also, we will create a toString method. Now we will create another class, course model. Within the model package, we will add all the fields. Yeah, within the model package, we'll add all the fields like private string, name, description, and email. As usual, we will skip the ID field in this custom class, and we will not annotate this class with any of the annotations. So we have these three properties: name, description, and email. We will add a no arg constructor. There are some problems. We will see what those are in a bit. Create getters and setters. Create a toString method. Yeah, let's go ahead and create a toString method. Now let's see what the error is. Let me comment the constructor for now and go to student model class. Yeah, let me import the course model in student model class. It is imported. Let me uncomment the constructor. Yeah, the error is now gone. Now create the repository interface and name it as student repository in the repository package, and that will extend JPA repository, and we will annotate it with @repository. And to JPA repository we will pass the generic student class, and the primary key of the student, data type of the primary key, that is, yeah, it is going to be a string. We will define the following methods. That the first one will be public boolean exists by email, and the parameter will be string email. We will only define the methods, and then JPA will take care of the implementation. And the next method will be public, and the return type will be list of students find by email, and the parameter will be string email. Let's import a student. Then public void delete by email, and the parameter will be string email. That's it. Similarly, let's create another repository class within the repository package and name it as course repository. And this is going to extend Mongo repository. and we will annotate this class, this interface with at the repository. And the generics to this will be course, and the data type of the primary key will be string. We will import course and define the following methods in this repository. That will be public and list of course, because this method is going to return a list of courses. And the name of the method will be find course by email, and the parameter that will be passed to this method is string email. Let's import the course. The next method will be public void delete by email, and the parameter will be string email. We will build the service now. Let's create a service class in the service package. This class is going to be a bit long. I will not bore you by typing line by line, so I will fast forward this section and then walk you through the code. We will annotate it with @service, and let me copy and paste all the code. So we will start with create a resource method, and before that we have auto add both the repositories, and I'm just importing those repositories and required classes into this service class. So I have auto add course repository as well as student repository, and the first method in the CRUD operation is create, and the first method will be create resource. This method is annotated with @transactional, so that Spring Data will maintain the transaction and roll back the changes in case of a failure. Uh, we will check if the particular student information is available in the database or not. If it is not available, then only we will add the student. If available, then the method will return the message duplicate resource. So we are creating an object of student and unmarshalling the data from student model into student object. Then we are saving the student object in the database. Once that is done, then retrieve all the courses associated with the student by looping through the course and unmarshal it into course object. Then set the email, because that is the only link between student and courses, and then save the course object in the database. Return, and after everything is done, then we will return the success message. That's what we are doing in this method. The next one is a read resource method. This will return a list of student models. We are going to create two lists in this method. One is to store all the records from the database, and then we will unmarshal that into the student model list and return the list. As you can see, we are fetching student list and then traversing through it and unmarshalling it into student model. I mean list of student models. That's what we are doing in this method. Right, we are building the list and returning the students uh, list. The next one will be update resource. It is also annotated with @transactional. We will check if the particular student information is available in the database or not. If it is available, then only we will update the student. If not available, then the method will return the message resource doesn't exist. And you can see we are saying that check for availability of resource by email. So if that is available, then we are going ahead and pulling the student information, and then we are saving the updated information in the database. Once that is done, we are traversing through the updated courses, copying the properties from the request body into the course object, and that was retrieved from the database, and saving it. At the end, we are returning the success message. This is what we are doing after saving the student object, and then we are pulling the courses and then traversing through it and copying um, that into course object and saving it. This is what we are doing in this Lambda expression. At the end, we are saying that resource was updated successfully, or in case if resource doesn't exist, we will return that message accordingly. Next method in the line is delete resource method. First thing we will check before delete is if the resource exists in the database. If it exists, then only we will go ahead and delete the resource. Otherwise, we will return the message saying that resource doesn't exist. And if delete was successful, then we will say that removed successfully. And the last thing left to code is the controller class. Let us move to our controller class and add 4 endpoints for all 4 CRUD operations. We will primarily interact with the service class, so let us auto var it. And name it as student service. We will create a public method create student. This method will need a student model object in order to add the resource. So in the request body, the student model object will be sent as we specify that in the request body annotation. And in the method body, we will say that return student service dot create resource. And to this method, we will pass student model. This is going to be a post method, and the URL will be create resource, and method will be post request method dot post. Okay, so let's create another method. Now we will create another method for read resources, and this method will return a list of student model. We will call the read resource method of student service class, and text no arguments. We will map this with URL read resources, and the HTTP method mapped to this will be request method dot get. The next method will be update student, and the return type will be string. And this method will need a student model object in order to update a student resource. That is why we are mentioning that with a at the rate request body annotation. And we will return student service dot update resource. To that we will pass the student model object. We will map this to the URL update resource, and the HTTP method mapped to this will be request method dot put. The next method will be delete student, and return type of this will be string. This method will need a student model object in order to delete a student from the database. So we are mentioning that with at the rate request body annotation. To that we will call the delete resource method of student service, and we will map this with the URL update resource. Sorry, we will map it with delete resource. My bad. And the method will be request method dot delete. Okay, now that the application is ready, let us go ahead and start the application. Yes, the application is started and running. To test the application, we will move to Postman and send HTTP request. Let's go to Postman and send our first post request to localhost 8080/create resource with a student model JSON object in the body of the request. As you can see, the um, body of the request and resource added successfully is the response message, and the status was 200. Okay, let us check the content in the MongoDB collection. We will say use the database that we are using. We are using Kali DB, and let's see what are the collections that are created. So course is the one we are concerned with. Let's see what is the content of that. We'll say that db.course.find, and these are the two records that are added which we sent from our postman request. And let's go to MySQL and see what is um, within the student table. So we will use db underscore mydb, and we will say show tables. We will query the student table, select star from student. Yeah, so John Bradshaw is the student that is added successfully. Let us send another HTTP GET request and read the resources that we just added. And as you can see, it is returning the right response with the right record. So our application is serving the same resource that we added. Let us go ahead and try to update the student record, and we will update the last name, name of the courses, and descriptions, and hit on send. Yeah, resource was updated successfully. We are getting 200 OK response. Let us send the HTTP GET request once again to make sure that the resource was updated successfully. So yeah, the last name is updated, and the one of the courses is updated while the other one is not updated. Looks like there is some logic error. The last one, Kubernetes, is not updated. All right, I have identified and corrected the logic error in the service class, and I have commented out the code that had logic error. In essence, we are actually reading all the courses by email and then copying the updated content from the student model into the list of courses inside the for loop. Then we are traversing through the courses list and reading each course by ID and then updating the same course with updated content. These are the lines that are responsible for um, update of student as well as the courses associated with the student. Right, let us now clean up both MongoDB and MySQL databases. We will say db.course.remove. So you can see two records were removed, and let's go to MySQL. We'll say delete from student, and let's commit it. Let us now go to the postman. We will add a resource with post request to create resource endpoint, and that was, yeah, added successfully. Let us see if the student was added by sending a get request to, yeah. So as you can see, the update, I mean, the resource was added. Let us now try to update the record. We are updating the name of the courses and description. Resource was updated successfully. And as you can see, the last name as well as course and their descriptions have changed. And if we, let's go to delete and update the course, name of the course and description, spring and spring, and then hit on send button. Perfect. The course was removed successfully. If I, yeah, try to read the resources, then it is returning a blank array or list. So that means our application is working perfectly. That was our application which connected to both SQL and NoSQL databases. I will share the GitHub link in the description. Thank you for watching. If you have any queries or suggestions, then please let me know in the comment section. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.